Make your day with Daybreak Nigeria on EKTV Channel 41, your agenda-setting program for the best of interviews without bias, sports, business news, weather report, newspaper highlights, and news as it breaks with balanced reportage. Watch Daybreak.
Yes, thank you very much. And I just want to, from this end, we want to wish everybody happy Democracy Day. Today we are celebrating the Democracy Day 2017, and today, May 29, marks the second anniversary of the assumption of power by President Muhammadu Buhari's government, and it's also, I think, about 18 years now that we have uninterrupted civilian government, and within 1999 and 2017, we've had about four presidents, four leaders in Nigeria. And today we're talking about democracy, and our focus shall be on the role of youth in the sustainability of the nation's democracy. I have my guests in the house this morning, or let me say we have our guests in the house this morning, and our guests are youths, and they're going to talk on the role of youths in the nation's democracy's sustainability. Now, let me introduce the first guest on the program this morning. He is the National President of FESSU, and FESSU is the Federation of Ekiti State Students Union, Mr. Adeomi Peters. Thanks for joining us in the program this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. President.
I also have Mr. Demiluyi Ayodele. He is the National Secretary of the union. Mr. Demiluyi Ayodele.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Good morning, sir.
And Mr. Adu Okoyemi is the Senate President, FESSU. Senator Adu Okoyemi.
Thank you,
Let me call you that name.
Thank you.
You are welcome on the program this morning.
Thank you, sir.
And let's talk about democracy itself. Democracy in Nigeria. How has it been? How has it the journey? How has the journey been so far?
Thank you so much, sir. I am Comrade Idowu Peters Adeomi, the National President of Federation of Ekiti State Students Union, FESSU National Union Government. I greet our viewers at home. Today, we're talking about the roles of students and youth in democracy sustainability in Nigeria. And democracy, looking at democracy, of course, many authors and philosophers before now discussed and defined democracy, but respect and kudos to the 16th President of the United States of America, Abraham Lincoln, who coined out the most renowned and globally accepted definition of democracy, the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And of course, we have a number of definitions like that, but all the definitions are centering emphasis on the fact that democracy is a system of government that allows for public participation, either directly or by voting or electing their representatives. So if you are looking at democracy, it allows people to participate in governance. And that is the essence of what we are celebrating today. But if you look at Nigeria, the system we operate doesn't give room, because people look at democracy as something that exists during election, when citizens exercise their franchise right. But I feel it's high time we began to look at democracy beyond election. Democracy should be extended to when we might have elected or vote for our representative, and they are already there representing us, making laws. It is incumbent and pertinent that we citizens keep looking high on what our representatives do, and monitoring and evaluating, in fact assessing what they do, so that we can checkmate their actions and inactions to suit the interest of the general public. And looking at democracy in Nigeria, Nigeria is one of the African countries that tasted and experienced both sweet and bitter British colonial administration before we gained our independence in the year 1960. And of course, looking at it historically, the military regime began in 1966 and it ended for multiple decades. Though we had a brief interruption of democracy between 1979 and 1983 before the full advent of democracy in May 29, 1999, when the newly elected President Olusegun Obasanjo took oath of office and mantle of leadership. That was May 29, 1999. And since that time, Nigeria has always on May 29 celebrated and remember the annual commemoration of Democracy Day. But looking at it, democracy in Nigeria, our democracy has been reluctant from graduating, from the infanthood to childhood, not to even talk of graduating to maturity, because we still live in an environment that seems not to work. We still live in a country where the system doesn't favor those who really fought for the independence and democracy. If you look at it historically, those who fought for the independence of this country before 1960 did it while they were during their youthful age. But today, our policies, the policies that are representative that we vote, that we elect, the policies and laws that they make doesn't favor those who fought for the independence and even for the liberation of the country. So it is time that we must begin to encourage our government and representative to begin to incorporate youth-oriented programs and policies so as to facilitate the sustainability of the democracy that we say we have practiced. Looking at it today, the return of democracy in 1999 envisaged a wide number of strategies to bring about improvement in our education sector, improvement or advancement in a finance state, improvements or to bring about transparency and accountability in leadership, free, fair and democratic election. But looking at it, what we operate today, not much has been achieved with regards to what I've aforementioned. So our system, we must preach to our government and our representatives, our lawmakers, to begin to look at the way they can incorporate and bring in youth to the administration and governance of the nation, because we fought for the democracy, we fought for the independence, and we should not be sidelined into in the affairs of the nation and our various states across the nation. So democracy today, we have it on paper. What we practice in Nigeria, our democracy is not practicable. We practice democracy on paper. We are not putting it into actual practice.
All right. Thanks for that. Thanks for that view. Let me ask Mr. Adu. You are the Senate President, and democracy in Nigeria is about 18 years on now. No doubt, we are in this country, and we might have one or two benefit from the democracy that we're talking about. Do you think youths have been a beneficiary of democracy?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I am Senator Adrokbayemi Abiodun. Solution remains my subsequent the FESSU National Senate President. From the perspective of the youth in democracy, well, let me say youth in Nigeria has not really benefited enough from democracy in Nigeria. During the era of our political leading leaders in Nigeria, when they were youths, they fought for the liberty at their youthful age, and they were able to gain one or two things. But during our own time now in Nigeria, we were unable to, we are not given the opportunity to exercise our political rights, to participate in democracy very, very, very well at those days. I could remember when these are present presidents of Nigeria. He was a president of this nation one time, maybe at the age of 26, 27 years. He was a youth then. He was given the right and the opportunity, to participate in politics, in democracy. Whereas today in Nigeria, where are youths in Nigeria to participate in politics? Go to France. The president of France today is a youth at the average of 40-something years old. Where are the youths in Nigeria today? Nowhere to be found. So in view of this, I want to, appeal to the governments, to the people outside there, to make sure students and youths outside here can participate in democracy.
Okay, you said from what the national president and also the Senate president said, we can deduce from your statement that the youths are being sidelined and that you are not allowed to participate much in politics, what happened when we have a 26-year-old person being a minister, or 27 being a president in the past. Now, I want to ask Mr. Ademiluyi Ayodele, what do you think are some of the hindrances to youth from being at the forefront these days?
Good morning, our viewer at home. My name is Ademiluyi Ayodele Joseph, the General Secretary, Federation of Ekiti State Students Union. As one of the hindrances to use by the youths, I will say awareness. Now I can see that in present stage in Nigeria, youths have been participating in politics, but the way youths are participating, the political leaders, those fathers that are participating in politics, they don't want to leave the position, and they are making use of youths in order to gather themselves, in order to acquire the position. They use youths they mobilize youths for election. They use them and adopt them. But now, this time around, let the youths stand up on their rights, stand for their rights, develop it, and say no to use and dump. They can contest for a post and win. Presently, we have presently in Nigeria, in a country like where we have youth of about 64 million, and our president is like 70 years. Even the youth take the large number of populists, and we can develop this thing. We can say no to these elderly people. We can say no to these leaders that have use us and dump us.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ademiluyi. Now take a break now, and when we come back, we continue with the topic, the role of youths in.
Break your day with Daybreak Nigeria on EKTV Channel 41, your agenda-setting program for the best of interviews without bias, sports,
World flight at Ronaldo cross,
business news, weather report, newspaper highlights, and news as it breaks with balanced reportage. Watch Daybreak Nigeria. Daybreak Nigeria live on EKTV, Mondays through Fridays. EKTV Daybreak Nigeria, your agenda-setting program.
Yes, thank you very much. Before we go on break, we are talking about the role of youth in the democracy sustainability. I have in the house the president, the Senate president, and also the national secretary of FESSU. Now, let me go over to you, Mr. Adeomi, the national president, and let's talk about the youths. The youths, what exactly do you think should be done for youths to really participate in politics in Nigeria, instead of just using them and dumping?
Thank you so much, sir. Let me start from the key point of the question, which is the youth. Who is a youth? According to Nigerian Youth Parliament 2006, someone is regarded as a youth when you are between the age of 18 and 35 years. But the definition of youth differs from country to country, because in America you have definition of youth as someone between the age of 18 and 40. But as a matter of fact, whichever definition you are giving to youth, the wide range globally accepted definition of youth is that a youth, we are the fire of a nation or a community. We are the engine room of the democracy, which is the reason behind the celebration of today. We can achieve a lot of things because of our energetic and vibrant nation, and that is why you see people that fought for democracy of Nigeria, as an example, did it while they were at their youthful age. We have a number of ways we can influence what happens in our communities or in our society. We have a number of ways by which we can contribute to the success of whatsoever happens in our community. Take democracy as an instance. We have some of the factors that impede the participation of youth in democracy or in governance or in politics. We have those deficiencies that are attributed to we youth ourselves, and we have some of the deficiency that came from the side of the government, those who lead us presently. The first thing, when we talk about those that come from we the youth ourselves, as ingenuine students, organizations, and leadership. Today we have student senior organizations or youth organizations that are ingenuine and non-real. We are the youth of the nation. We call ourselves leaders of tomorrow. We are aiming at taking up the responsibility of being at end of affairs of this nation or our various states or local governments tomorrow. But today, the tea on our table, we are not able to manage it effectively and share it to be enjoyed by every member of our organization. Today we have many youth and student organizations that are being factionalized because we are power mongers. Even at our youthful age, we have inculcated the habit of being power mongers and being power drunk. We don't want to give heads to one person. We don't want to be at the end of affairs at the same time. Many wonders why our leaders presently do take advantage of us and lure our decisions with money and promises that they will never fulfill. When some of our youth, when they see money, when they give them 1.5 million or what have you, they compromise the standard because of poverty or illiteracy. So it is high time the youth stands to their feet and defend their future, not today. Whatsoever you do today will stand as history to either mock or celebrate you tomorrow. So it is high time we stand to our rights. Meanwhile, we youth, we have many ways by which we can contribute. During the election, we should come out en masse and vote for the person that we believe will represent us well and make policies that will make our futures to be bright and very good, compared to someone that only wants to mobilize us, canvass us, and make today to be a little bit good at the detriment of our own future. Because these people will go tomorrow, it will remain us, we the youth. But what happens to us tomorrow? Today will determine it. Our future lies in our hands. So, if the other way by which we can participate in democracy or politics is by constructively criticizing the actions and inactions of both the executive, legislative, and judicial arm of government that seems inimical and detrimental to the future and interest of the student and youth populace. It is recognized. It is lawfully backed up. We can go on street and protest in a way that will not lead to rioting. It is recognized by the law. The United Nations in 1948 constituted a 8-man committee, and they defined the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which we have freedom of rights of expression and of thoughts. So we can go on street and criticize constructively and protest in a way that will not cause destruction of properties or lives. Meanwhile, from the government perspective, one of the challenges that we face is the constitution, which is the bedrock of every activities in political distribution of the country. Our constitution today, if I'm right, it recognizes someone who has attained the age of 40 to contest for governorship position. Why can't we have a constitution that will recognize someone at the age of 30 to contest as the governor of a state? We have many of us outside that are vibrant and can head those positions, even as president. Why should we have someone at 80 years of age to be the president of a nation who is not even exercisely buoyant enough to man the affairs of the nation? Why not a youth who is vibrant, energetic, and full of most ardent zeal and enthusiasm to lead the nation? Meanwhile, the youth, the constitution of this country, it is high time we began to preach to our legislators to begin to make the constitution of this nation to recognize the youth to run for political offices at their youthful age.
Okay, yeah, let me cut it short there. And the other time you talk about sidelining and you talk about incorporating the youth, that the youths are not being incorporated. But how do you describe a scenario now when we have, when you talk about crimes, when you talk about violence, when you talk about thuggery, when you talk about kidnapping, you find out that people engaging in all these vices are youths. How do you reconcile something? Do you think the nation should put a leadership role in the hands of the youth?
Actually, thank you for this very germane question, sir. If you look at it very well, if you look at the in-depth of these social vices or youth restiveness, maybe during election or what have you, you trace the origin to poverty and lack of or illiteracy. Poverty, there is nothing poverty would not push someone to do. And these political office holders are leaders, so-called leaders, as I rightly said, they lure the decision of the youth with money. When you give money to someone to kidnap, you know, when you trace the history of these things, you find that these political office holders, the so-called leaders, are the brains behind the activities of these youth, getting involved in kidnapping, and other social vices. You find the political office holders, being the brain for these activities. You find them as those sponsoring them to do those things, being kidnapping, other social vices. They are brains behind it. Youth, if you don't have the financial capability to buy rifles, guns, you cannot go to the street and kidnap, because you would be afraid that you don't have political backup and financial backup to do those things. So you have godfathers who are seated somewhere and giving them instructions and commands to go, that we are at your back. If you have been arrested by the police, it will just cost me a phone call and you will be released. You won't get to jail. So the arrest assured that those behind them will, as a matter of fact, come to their aid when they are being arrested for these social vices. And that is why you see them being buoyant enough to go to the street and constitute nuisance. Take a look at election period. You see youths fighting at the detriment of their own lives because they have someone at home who cannot even save them when they die. But if they have been arrested, if they are at the police station or the SSS custody, it will just cause them phone calls and they will be released. So the essence of this is that those at the ends of affairs presently are corrupt. And that is the bottom line of the whole things. The youth, if they are being given opportunity to rule, if they are being empowered and everyone else his own business and you are not depending on nobody to earn your living or to earn your daily bread, you will not depend on anybody, and the person will not instruct you or command you to go and commit any atrocity before you earn anything, because you are independent. But youth will dance to the tune, to the goodwill of their godfathers, because they need something to get from them. But if quality education, if they are being taught how to fish and they can be independent on themselves, they will not, as a matter of fact, go dancing to the tunes that are bad and that are inimical to their own life, to their future and their well-being. That's my belief. And Federation of Ekiti State Students Union, which I head personally as national president, we are taking giant strides to make sure that we control and instruct our members to run away from social vices. We have been preaching against that.
Maybe before we go to the FESSU issue, I just don't have this one question about youth in democracy. No doubt, going into politics, it's not a day job, and you need the financial backing, the without. Where do you think youth can get the financial backing, as in going into politics by youth? How do you think we'll get the financial backing to move on? That is the Senate President I'm talking to.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. To get financial assistance in politics is a very, very simple thing. We have so many youths outside there that are graduated from schools. They are, having nothing to do at home. They no work, nothing to do. Let's assume they are given employment outside there today. They were able to do one or two things to support their living. But when you went to school and there is nothing for you, you pass out from school, you have nothing to rest on, to cater for and at the end of the day you want to have a family, and you are telling me you want to go into politics. Then how do you want to run it? Those people who are in politics, the leading leaders today, they started from somewhere when Nigeria was good. Now Nigeria is no more okay. Nigeria is, in terms of financial, you can see corruption everywhere, and there see many people keeping our money, our money that is supposed to be used for you and I in a pit. This, as disallowed youth to get money to go into politics. And you see so many of the leaders taking our money to abroad, taking our money to do unnecessary things. This has cut short the youth in participating in politics. And moreover, I want to say the government of the day in Ekiti State is trying his best, and I will say that he should try to make sure that youth participate in politics, in supporting them in business, in anything that can help their financial assistance, to make sure those guys, those youths, students in Ekiti State go into unionism and into politics.
Yes, Mr. the FESSU President, you are also an advocate of youth participating in politics, and don't forget, politics has to do with financial backing, and you are talking about Godfather at that time. Don't you think this will also aid youth having Godfather for political post?
Thank you so much, sir. Addressing this issue about how youth get the financial capacitation to run for political offices, we must start to address this situation from the state of mind of individual persons in the nation. This situation is not about the government alone. We must look at what happens to individual persons, individuals in the nation. Our political parties are also corrupt. They have the mind of getting money, of extorting contestants. Imagine a political party that instructs that before you can run for governorship position, you must be able to be rest assured that you have 4 billion naira. 4 billion. Of course, this is too much, and of course, this situation lies on we citizens as well. Someone is contesting, you are expecting that person to bring the money before you can vote. It is something that we are doing to ourselves at the detriment of ourselves. So we should begin to preach to individuals that if you have someone that have good agenda for you, it is not a must you receive something in return of the vote you cast, which is your right. We must begin to tell us that we should be able to vote and anticipate for a better tomorrow, even when money is not involved. Yes. The reason why we would not have good democracy or good governance is because we extort aspirants. We require and request from them money, huge amount of money, before we can vote or before we can declare our interest for them. Meanwhile, is an ecclesiastical philosophy that money is the bicycle of gospel. Meanwhile, in politics, when we are trying to select our leader, we should not extort them. So it is one of the problems, one of the issues and challenges youth have this day. There is no way you will get money to contest if you don't have a godfather somewhere that is backing you up financially and politically. A youth, even if you work with an NPC or you work with Chevron, your salary per month after catering for yourself and your family, you would find it difficult to say you want to run for local government chairman if you don't have someone there with you at your back giving you money to support you. And of course, if you receive money or financial backup from a godfather, you will surely dance to the goodwill of that person, and that is affecting the system that we operate in the nation, in our various states and our various local government authorities. We must begin to preach against this so that the system could be changed and it will envisage a bright future for we that we are coming up now. So that is our stand about that.
And before we go on the program this morning, Mr. Ademilui, what do you think should be the role of youths?
The roles of youth.
Yes, in democracy building.
According to roles of youths is based on individual perspective, but the general acceptable roles of youth based on ethic and morally acceptable of society, what the society entails individual to do. One of the roles of youth is nation building. Nation building is a situation whereby someone, a citizen of a country, protects his country, defend his country against external aggression, against external attack. If the youth are, if the youth believe in building a nation that we can that can survive for the coming generation, we can achieve that. And the roles of youth is also a campaign against tribalism. Presently, Nigeria is facing tribalism. Tribalism means loyalty to one particular ethnic group. Presently, the president of Nigeria, sorry to say, is not that I'm somehow partisan, but what I'm trying to say is that I want to lay emphasis on it. The president of Nigeria presently, if you check the people that are in cabinet of government, that in realm of affair of Nigeria presently, they are northern people. This shows that Nigeria is facing tribalism. Let the youth stand up and campaign against this tribalism and say no to tribalism. If we can do so, we can achieve a good and a sustainable democracy.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Nas, Mr. FESSU National President. We want to talk about FESSU now, coming out to Ekiti State. FESSU in Ekiti, how has the journey been so far? How is the video fair?
Thank you so much, sir. As the national president of Federation of Ekiti State Students Union, having my fellow executives, some of them here, I believe we'll be able to do justice to your question. Federation of Ekiti State Students Union is the mother of all students union as far as Ekiti State is concerned, the umbrella body of all indigenous students of Ekiti State studying in all institutions, both in Nigeria and across the world and the globe. We have from time immemorial been an uncompromising mouthpiece of Ekiti students studying both home and abroad. And our own administration took off November 17, even though we were elected October 8th, but the popular mandate that was bestowed on us, the Executive Council, on October 8th was consolidated on the November